We have more developments that are coming in. Now, Russia's UN envoy as Vasily Nebenzia called upon the US to immediately release the legitimately elected President Maduro and his spouse. Let's in fact listen in.
Call upon, corrects the Speaker, the U.S. leadership to immediately release the legitimately elected president of an independent state and his spouse. Any problems existing or conflict between the United States and Venezuela need to be resolved through dialogue. And this is precisely what is enshrined.
All right, Aditya, in terms of this, now Russia has also reacted to this, and obviously this situation, when we have seen that escalated in Venezuela, Russia was also one of the first to come out and condemn the capture of Maduro. What exactly are you getting to know?
This Russian envoy to UN has definitely condemned the entire incident, and definitely, if you see, entire incident is this is very, very concerning at this juncture. Russia and China has been saying that this is illegal with what has happened, and definitely they want that the international community raise their concerns, and definitely the US has particularly did this, for their, US is eyeing the oil resources of Venezuela, and that is why this is a well-known fact that this has happened, because, some visuals came where, Maduro, just before getting kidnapped, hours before getting kidnapped by the US forces, Maduro had met with the Chinese envoy. So definitely till now the China had been using taking the oil resources of Venezuela, but now, however, it needs to be seen how things unfold in this scenario.
Aditya, stay on with me. We have more developments that are coming in. Now, Chinese envoy Sun Le, the charge d'affaires of China's prominent mission to the United Nations, tells the UN Security Council that it's deeply shocked and strongly condemns the unilateral, illegal and bullying acts of the US regarding its attack on Venezuela and capture of Nicolás Maduro and his wife. He added that, and I quote, the US has disregarded the grave concerns of the international community and wantonly trampled upon Venezuela's sovereignty, security and legitimate interest, unquote. Let's in fact listen in to what the statement was.
China is deeply shocked by and strongly condemns the unilateral, illegal and bullying acts of the US.
All right, Aditya, not just Russia but China as well, because both of these, both China and Russia have a stake in Venezuela, and it was an ally, especially in terms of oil. They are the biggest buyers in terms of Venezuelan oil. Now, Chinese envoy has also condemned this, and they have issued at least 4 warnings till now to Trump as well in terms of this.
Even the Chinese envoy has now condemned the actions by the Trump administration and the US President Donald Trump, and definitely this is expected to escalate. The entire situation is now will definitely escalate, considering the matter. It is a very, very serious concern that what has happened, the things are not looking, at this juncture, Russia and China were major players as far as the Venezuelan oil is concerned, because Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, even more than the Saudi Arabia. And for quite some time, US was eyeing this. We saw just before the arrest of Maduro and his wife, we saw how the US Navy had captured the oil tanker of Venezuela. So definitely, at this juncture, there is a $2 trillion debt of the US, and definitely now all these, because they are very desperately eyeing the oil resources of Venezuela, that they will use these, all the American companies will extract the Venezuelan oil, and that will, over the period of 2 years, that alone, this money will lead to the, the paying of the debt which America has to pay in the next 2 years. So indeed, it's a very calculated move, and definitely, under the garb of saying that it is important for national security, Trump has, US President Donald Trump has taken this decision, which is inviting condemnation from across the globe, and definitely it needs to be seen how things unfold in this scenario. Riya.
All right, Aditya, thank you so much for joining me on the telecast and for those inputs. But meanwhile, more news coming in terms of Venezuela. Now, toppled Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has pleaded not guilty to US narcotic charges, appearing in a Manhattan federal court. Speaking through an interpreter, The 63-year-old Maduro said, "I am innocent, I'm not guilty, I'm a decent man, I'm still president of my country," before being cut off by U.S. District Judge Alvin. And Maduro's wife, Cilia Flores, also pleaded not guilty. The next court date has been set for March 17. Outside the courthouse, dozens of protesters, both pro and anti-Maduro, gathered ahead of the brief hearing. Hours later in Caracas, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez was sworn in as Venezuela's interim president. While voicing support for Maduro, she gave no indication she would challenge the U.S. move. So now we have more breaking news coming in terms of Cilia Flores. As per reports, Venezuela's deposed dictator Nicolás Maduro's wife Cilia Flores suffered significant injuries during her capture in Venezuela over the weekend as part of a U.S. military operation. Her lawyer made the claim before a federal judge. Addressing the judge overseeing her criminal case, Flores' attorney, Mark Donnelly, told senior U.S. District Judge Alvin that his client sustained significant injuries during her abduction. He said she may have suffered a fracture or serious bruising to her ribs and requires a physical evaluation. The remarks came shortly after Flores and her husband, Nicolás Maduro, pleaded not guilty to multiple federal charges at a New York courthouse. Now joining me on the telecast is my colleague Arzu Seth. Arzu, first of all, talking about the proceedings that happened at the Manhattan court. First of all, both of them, Cilia Flores as well as Nicolás Maduro, pleaded not guilty. So what exactly is the next course of action for both of them and the ongoing situation that is developing in Venezuela?
Well, yes, Nicolás Maduro appeared in the U.S. federal court and also where he pleaded not guilty to a series of charges including narcoterrorism and other weapon-related offense. And also if we talk about the key points from the court appearance, Maduro told the judge that I'm innocent, I'm not guilty, and also claimed he remains the legitimate president of the Venezuela despite his capture. And he and his wife, who also faces the charges and pleaded not guilty, were escorted to the court in the federal custody. And also, if we talk about the next hearing, that is going to be very crucial. The next scheduled hearing in this case is in March, on March 17th, 2026. So definitely, Maduro defense is expected to argue both his innocence for the underlying allegation, and that is his capture violated international legal norms protecting head of the state. And also, as you also mentioned, there were claims and there were information about Maduro's wife, former First Lady Cilia Flores, appeared in court, and also with visible bandaging, and her attorney reports that she sustained significant injuries, including the during the U.S. operation to seize her and Maduro in the Caracas. So definitely Flores' defense has requested immediate medical evacuations from her injuries, and this allegation could become a part of the broader legal and diplomatic dispute over how the operation was carried out. Yes.
All right, Arzu, thank you so much for joining me on the telecast. Meanwhile, that's a wrap for the bulletin. We'll slip into a short break. Don't go anywhere.